So the quiz question I asked yesterday, or last Monday, was what is truth? Yeah? So got some interesting answers. So an observation sentence is like, this is a book.
Very true.
Right, and everyone here agrees with that. Although, you do have to speak the language in order to understand what I said, to have that kind of agreement. So that's an issue, right? Number one. But so we agree. This is a good book. That's an opinion. All I did was add one more word to it, and all of a sudden now it's no longer a true or false sentence. It's instead a non-cognitive sentence. And the meaning of it's understandable, no problem. I'm hurrah for this. I think that's basically another interpretation of it. But notice that at that point now, it no longer can be considered scientifically true or false. It's an opinion. Now, if I were using something specific, like, some of the books that were published had misprints in it, and I just checked this one though, and this one's a good one. That's a different situation because now I'm saying this one does not have those misprints in it, and that's verifiable. Oh, yep, this page is okay, right? So the context is really quite important. In fact, we might say that for something to be considered true, it has to be within a larger context of meaning that the speakers or those that are communicating all share and agree that that's true, right? So a larger context. But another way of phrasing that is to say that truth is relative to the context. Do you see that? Is that true?
I like that.
Well, it is that is a context, and this context in which we generally will refer to that. But there are people that feel that something that's true is true outside of any context. It's always true. Our educated elite feel like those folks are just being bozos and don't understand how language works. Of course, they wouldn't say it that way. So, for example, I think the French are just being nice to Islamists that come to France and continue to practice Islam. And they say, that's fine by us, because the French people are absolutely convinced after they've been there in Europe long enough, the Islamism, it will go away. They will become Europeans and secularists. And if not the original generation that comes in, at least by the time their children come, as long as the father doesn't kill the daughters because they're doing it, which happens, actually, sadly. So the French, I think, are just being politically sensitive when they allow Muslims to come into their country and allow them to practice their faith. But they do impose certain limitations because they're convinced that once you understand the way the world really works, your Islamic beliefs will stop being a viable way of thinking about things for you, right? So that's kind of intriguing, right? The French refer to their beliefs regarding secularism. They use the word laïcité, right? So, by the way, we have a International Commission on Freedom of Religion that's one of the United States committees that's funded by our government. Their job each year is to write a report on the state of freedom of religion throughout the world in all the different countries. And they routinely criticize France for not being free with regard to the practice of religion, because there are restrictions in France. You're not allowed to publicly, symbolically show support for particular types of religions. Catholicism is different because, of course, it's actually state-supported. So that's kind of a conflict, of course. But it's mostly tourism for them. All the cathedrals that everybody goes to, and so on. I don't know if you've ever visited France and visited the cathedrals. They're incredible, of course. But so we're freer with regard to religions in this country than, say, France is, because are you familiar with the burkini problem that happened this summer? Did I spell it right? So the woman on the right was fined for wearing what she wore. It's okay for you to wear nothing, actually, or a bikini, but you can't wear a burkini, which is a burqa, to go swimming in. So that's kind of part of the issue in France. They arrest women that are wearing burqas on the beach and fine them 60 euros. That's it. You know, so you're not allowed to do that. If you go to the beach in France. Now, of course, you could wear anything you like in the United States, right? I suppose. As long as it's not a shark costume, probably. Might be irritating to some. So that's interesting. But so, let me play something for you.
I'm going to speak today about the relationship between science and human values. Now, it's generally understood that questions of morality, questions of good and evil and right and wrong, are questions about which science officially has no opinion.
Because they're neither true nor
science
false.
Can help us get what we value, but it can never tell us what we ought to value. And consequently, most people, I think most people probably here, think that science will never answer the most important questions in human life. Questions like, what is worth living for? What is worth dying for? What constitutes a good life? So I'm going to argue that this is an illusion, that the separation between science and human values is an illusion, and actually quite a dangerous one at this point in human history. Now, it's often said that science cannot give us a foundation for morality and human values because science deals with facts, and facts and values seem to belong to different spheres. It's often thought that there's no description of the way the world is that can tell us how the world ought to be. But I think this is quite clearly untrue. But values are a certain kind of fact. They are facts about the well-being of conscious creatures. Why is it that we don't have ethical obligations toward rocks? Why don't we feel compassion for rocks? It's because we don't think rocks can suffer. And if we're more concerned about our fellow primates than we are about insects, as indeed we are, it's because we think they're exposed to a greater range of potential happiness and suffering.